Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar about recycling and plastics, our cross-curricular experience by myself, Susan Carson, and Pam Roberts.
Yes. It began in the summer of 2016 when a group of us, there were a total of 20 teachers, 10 tandem teachers, which would be a pair of a STEM teacher plus the German teacher from that school, went to Germany and spent 10 days learning about sustainability. We worked very hard. We spent the day having guest speakers come in, or we went on excursions. And the highlight, not necessarily every day, but one of the highlights of my day would be the little snacks we got in the morning and afternoon, our little cookies, and we got to talk among ourselves and also with our guest speakers. So that was a wonderful experience.
We also often went on excursions to learn about different things. One of the excursions that we went on was to the Umwelt campus in Birkenfeld, which is a university that is very green. And so we got to learn about all the different ways that they use green items from, looks like a beehive comb at the top of the window to pull the sun to the back of the window, collecting rainwater to flush the toilets and such, and using all the different things for heating and cooling from the area.
One day, the Umwelt campus, one of the professors brought out a car. It was an electric car. It started out as a traditional car, and they had retrofitted it so that it was an electric car, and we got to drive that and ride in the car, and that was a wonderful experience.
We also went to an energy park where we could see a variety of renewable energy sources, from the photovoltaic to the wind turbines to the biomass plant, which was interesting for those that were not used to the farm smells.
We also got the opportunity to visit some different schools and watch the students in action, which was wonderful. The students are very well behaved, which isn't always the case in the United States, and seem to very much enjoy learning. They like to design things, and one of the schools had designed or had their students design was a garden where they learned about growing different vegetables and a variety of plants, and also had honeybees. And so they were doing studies with that. So it was very much a lot of these projects, like the garden, driven by the students. It was their idea, what they wanted to do, and they incorporated it then into the classroom.
We also were able to observe some lessons, such as what's going on with the bees worldwide and the colony collapses that's occurring.
In addition to doing all of our work, we also got the wonderful opportunity to travel around a little bit. One of the places we went was Metz, France, and we got to spend the evening. We had a tour guide that took us around the city, so we got to see the wonderful things there, like the Marché, which is the market, and it was an old historic building. I don't remember what it was. Do you remember what it was before? But it is an old historic building. We got to see the churches and just walk around and experience a little bit of France, because France was located right or very close to the border of Germany where we were staying at Osterhausen.
Yep. We were also able to go to the smart car factory, and unfortunately we could not take pictures inside, but we got to see how they were environmentally conscious within their production of the smart car, which is already environmentally friendly because of the energy efficiency of it.
This was another excursion that we were on after we went to the smart car factory. I don't remember the name of the place. What do you remember the name of this place?
It was just top of my head. I showed them. German
but
teacher.
It's a very, very beautiful. So it was just another location we got to see. It was a wonderful experience.
And we could see the environment that is so important to keep clean and to take care of.
Another place we got to see was Trier, Germany. And although the day was very rainy and gloomy, we made the best of it and had a wonderful time visiting some of the old historic buildings, the churches. We got to eat out, got to have a bratwurst, outside in the pouring down rain, but it was wonderful. We still had a good time and just made the best of everything.
We also would, in the evening, go around and check out the surrounding area to Otzenhausen, where we were staying, whether it be going hiking, um, with this picture where we went hiking around a lake, or even hiking to the next village over to get ice cream. And then there is also a wall, a Celtic wall,
Celtic wall we went
that
to.
we went to go see the remnants of it.
And had an interpreter take us and show us everything. I don't know, like interpret the history for us.
While we were there, all the tandem groups came up with projects to do once we got back to our schools. And so here are some of the projects being presented by the various schools. Pam and I were there with our colorful ones, and then some of the other groups, like Aaron's group, showing off what they were going to plan to do when they got back to the United States.
And they also had teachers from the German schools come around and speak with us about what our plans were and possibly make ideas or make arrangements to hook up if they were interested in also doing that same type of a project.
So that we could partner across the ocean.
Yes.
In our group, we had multi-step, and part of it we did together in one classroom, and part of it we did separately. We started by talking to the students about what does sustainability mean to them. So the students were asked to write down the meaning of sustainability, and they shared the ideas and discussed them. In the chemistry class, that was done in English. In German, that was done in the German language.
The next thing we did, and we didn't go into sustainability a whole bunch because we wanted them to do this triangle, a sustainability activity, but they were given pieces of paper that had different topics written on them, as you can see here in the PowerPoint, and we had created a triangle in the room, and it had 3 corners labeled with economy, social, and environmental. And they had to put these pieces of paper in the corner that they felt fit that statement or little phrase. And then we discussed this, and the whole point of this was for them to become familiar with the economy, social, and environmental components of sustainability. If the needs of each of those 3 cornerstones are not met, then for us to proceed in a sustainable fashion will not occur. So we wanted the kids to realize how important the economical portion of of sustainability is, because if businesses find it not to be economical to keep the earth healthy, they're not going to do it. So we have to find economical ways for us to keep our environment healthy, and also that will keep society happy. So we wanted them to become aware of these 3 cornerstones.
And once again, this was done in English in the chemistry class and in German in the German classroom. And here's an example of what the triangle would look like. The German classes then researched the German recycling system and came up with presentations that were in English. So they were primarily in English, but had the German sprinkled in so that the chemistry students could learn about the recycling and also learn a few German words as we went through. So as you can tell on these poster boards, the students did do it with both languages.
Then the science students, what they researched was plastics, the different types of plastics. The various groups would have a specific type of plastic that they had to research, and they had to look up things like how they were being used, properties, if they could be recycled, if they could be used for food, if they could be reused, if it was safe. And they had to make up posters to present to their classmates plus the German classes, or students in the German class.
And while the students in both classes were doing their presentations, we had already arranged for them to have a page where they could take notes on the presentation or answer questions about the presentations.
And this is just a listing of what the requirements were for the posters for the different types of plastics. Okay, this slide shows you the particulars of what they had to incorporate into their posters. They had to come up with environmental problems caused by the plastic. And I was really surprised because when I initially had come up with this lesson, I was thinking of generic environmental problems that plastics presented to the environment. But the students found all kinds of environmental problems that their particular type of plastic caused. So that was pretty nice little surprise for me that they were that specific. They had to come up with how they were used. Their properties, if they could be recycled, problems recycling them. Some of them that can be recycled will jam up the machines that they use to recycle them. And if they can be used again, and some of them, like drinking bottles, for the most part, are not safe for us to reuse because of bacteria. And some plastics are not safe because of the materials that are incorporated into that plastic for food and drink. And then they had to have pictures and illustrations. And we also were able to discuss how in our area, for the most part, only two types of plastics are recycled. It's type 1 and type 2 plastic, with the other ones just being thrown away, which is very unfortunate.
So here are the students in the chemistry class actually working on their posters,
Having a good time.
being getting their artist going.
Yes.
And here are some examples from up on the wall after we hung them up of their wonderful exhibits.
Yes, and it's the area. Some of the students from other classes really enjoy it because they're able to go through there and learn a little bit about the different types of plastics. Just walking by it, they try to learn a few things every day that they didn't know by looking at their wall of knowledge or wall of information that's out there. And
here's some other great examples with the pictures and lots of great information.
Mm-hmm.
What we then did was take them into the lab. And the students had to plan and conduct the experiment where they ranked the types of plastics by density. And then they had to identify two different pieces of plastic by its type. This required them to analyze the data to think about what was in the different types of plastics, and then apply these experiment results to design a method to separate large quantities of the plastic by type. Yes, and when we were doing this, they obviously, as it said, or I think I put it in there, they had different solutions they were using, and I think the next slide shows this. You have solutions that have different densities, and my lesson that I created does show you how to make these, but some of them were like isopropyl alcohol that's been diluted down, which is just rubbing alcohol diluted to make it its density vary. We had distilled water. We had a calcium chloride solution. I was just pulling them out of here. Sodium chloride solution out of a specific concentration to get these different densities.
So these materials would actually be something that would be very common for any teacher to have access to. You don't have to have a big budget because you can go to the grocery store and buy salt. You can buy rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. You can get distilled water. And the calcium chloride, especially right now, is easily available because it is salt that you can buy that salt for road salt because it heats up to melt ice right now. So that would be very easy. And then the samples of plastic, what I would recommend when you're doing it is fine plastics that come in different colors. Because we had the plastics so that you could separate if they got them confused, figure out what they were because each type was a different color. So that was really easy, and it makes it easy for reusing the materials because they can't put them in the wrong container because you can tell because the color is different. And if you have trouble trying to find PVC or type 3 plastic, you can just use old credit cards. I used a AAA card and cut that up for that, unless you want to try to cut up PVC pipe for that, which might be a little difficult. So, here's some pictures of how we had it set up in the lab. So you can see the picture of all the different samples. And then we had the students, some of them, just because of numbers, were just chemistry students. But what we did with the German students was we put them in groups with the chemistry students to make sure that the knowledge level was there for running the lab, just in case my German students had not had a science class in a while. That way they had that background knowledge to help them. And as you can tell, we made sure that they all had their goggles and aprons and everything to keep everybody safe. Also, this activity could be tailored for different grade levels because if you have freshmen where they're just studying density, you might want to give them a little bit more guidance on how to do it. We kind of let our kids figure it out on their own. They need to practice problem solving, and when you are having students do this, you have to give them the opportunity to mess up, to make mistakes, because they need to learn from doing. They don't need to be told how to do something. And it wasn't that terribly difficult to figure out if something sinks or floats, but then they have to use the data that they obtain to figure out, well, then which of the plastics was the most dense? Which one was the least dense? Which one, and to put them in pecking order from the most dense to the least dense using that data. But once again, this could be something you could use with freshman level, maybe even middle school kids, or you could have some of your higher level kids do it without as much guidance. Here's a few more where the students are going through and trying to determine what is thinking and what is not. In our assessment, we did have a quiz that was over the content shared in the presentation. We did allow the students to use their notes and their question sheets they had used, that they had written on while the presentations were going on. The students also did lab reports. They were written in English by the science students, but written in German by the German students, to make sure that they were still getting the target language usage. Yes. And in that
lab report, they also had to use these ideas to try to show how you could use density to separate plastics if you are in a recycling company. I know they don't do that necessarily, but they're still applying these skills that they learned to solve a real world problem then.
One of the ideas that we came up with while we were in Germany at this presentation was to take our idea with the plastics and to make it into a school-wide thing. And when we came back with that, I had a conversation with my teacher, or with my principal, and he's like, "Oh, that would be great for this green team that we're just starting." So our green team, which is students made up, is a team made up of students that are led by a teacher, with our help, collected plastic bottle caps and other types of plastic from all sorts of different things like medicine bottles and such. And they converted those for our school, into a bench. But you can make tables and planters and all sorts of other things. It is the type of plastic that is not normally recycled. So we were taking things out of the landfill. We began a school-wide campaign to collect the 400 pounds of caps to turn it into a bench, with the big idea of eventually perhaps having an outdoor classroom space. The newspaper heard about this idea and did run a paper, and so the community became very involved. We got buckets and buckets of caps that were just brought to school. We currently have 2 benches already created, and
we have enough, I think, for almost a third one now. And I believe there's another school that is actually doing the same thing.
We have another school that has started to do this because they heard about us, and there's actually another church in the area that wants to do this with their youth group as a service project to get benches for their church area.
One of the problems, though, is that it's not free. Obviously, the company that does this has to charge for the bench, but you can get benches, picnic tables, planter boxes. There's a variety of things that they can create with these plastic caps.
This is the bench, the first one that we got in. They come standard. This is the bench that we did first. The standard color is gray, but you can pay a little extra. And so we paid a little bit extra to get these in our school colors of red and black. We do have another one already on site, as we said. We unfortunately have figured out that we do not have a great place on our property to be able to have an outdoor classroom space, because there's no place where we don't have to worry about them being defaced or stolen, unfortunately. So we are going to stick with the 3 that we have enough to do right now. And our school is stopped, but as we said, some other schools in the area have picked it up.
We also have a very nice little courtyard that they are being located in. So that's nice, where the students can enjoy them, but it's in a secured area, so we don't have to worry about them growing legs and walking away.
So that's where this particular one is located, is out in our courtyard. And then we have another one that's in our entrance foyer, so that people can sit on it as they come in and wait on people.
We also came up with some extension ideas that we could do. One of them was making a green cleaner lab, and we have this bioplastic that you can order. It's PVA, and you can order it from places like Amazon.com, and the kids take this and can convert it into a cleaner. The problem is the materials that they are using are fairly concentrated, like acid and stuff. So you would want to have more advanced students actually doing it. Now, the product that is being made is very safe, obviously, because you can use it for cleaners, but you have to be very careful as to what students work with this. So it'd be somebody that's been trained to work with some dangerous or more dangerous chemicals. The problem with like this cup is anything that has text on it, you do not want that dye in the cleaner. So what the kids have to do is they have to cut the cup up, but you have to cut off all the areas that have the colored print. So it would be best to be able to buy them without the colored print.
We also found, while we were in Europe, an idea of upcycling plastic bottles so that they are being reused for more than one purpose, to grow vegetables, and are either hanging in the wall of our classrooms or in the lab area, and then allowing the students to be able to take those vegetables and eat them.
Or we could do herbs. We could do rosemary and parsley and all that in them.
Showing that there's more than one use to be able to talk about that. Now, in my German classroom, I took this and made it's an entire intro unit to my environmental unit, where we talked about plastic pollution and plastic bag usage. And I started with an introduction to plastic bags and how bad they are in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and on average how many we use, and all the different legal movements around the world to try to get them banned or limited. And then I also used authentic resources from Germany, such as the 9,5 series and newspaper articles. And I converted those using technology enhancements such as Edpuzzle for the videos, or Actively Learn for the newspaper articles, so that the students were actively answering questions as they were going through. At the end, I had an AP-style cultural comparison prompt, and they actually got to choose from 2, because I had 2 that I came up with. One was on recycling and cultural comparison on the recycling, and the other one was on plastic usage, because we had talked about both. And then I also created a persuasive prompt on if plastic should be used, so that they heard and read items on plastic usage and created that AP-style persuasive piece using plastics. And then from there, I transitioned into the different energy sources as my bigger unit, and talked about the pros and cons of different energy sources and the environmental impacts of that, which was the natural lead-in from this trip that we had gone on to.
Well, and I thought my kids were very impressed with how Germany handles recycling. The United States, we recycle very, very little. In fact, as I said before, only type 1 and 2 plastics are generally recycled. At recycling pickup areas. We can't even put the plastic grocery bags. You have to take those back to the store if you want those to be recycled. Glass is not recycled, at least where I live, because I have to haul my own stuff in to recycle it, but they collect no glass, so you cannot have your glass recycled. Corks off of wine bottles, if you happen to do that, they don't. I don't know. I think Germany, didn't they recycle those?
There's
I
a
remember
special trash that it
trash
goes
for
into.
that. A food waste. I live out in the country, so we just throw ours over our fence into one of our pastures. But food waste, we don't collect those, the bio waste. And it's just a shame in the United States how little we recycle or reuse. We're a very wasteful society. And doing this with Susan allowed my students to see there are other countries that do a much better job than the United States does in recycling and taking care of our planet. So it gives them some ideas that just because we do it one way does not mean that it is the best, and there are better options out there at times. I tried to bullshit.